Welcome to Humane Voices, the official podcast of the Humane Society of the United States. I'm Chad, alongside Kelly, as usual. Kelly, how are you doing?
I am great, Chad. Good to see you.
Good. We're going down on the farm.
Yes.
So Kelly's, so today we're talking about pigs and chickens and what they're like. So we're here today with an absolute expert on this who lives with pigs and chickens 365 days a year, and can tell us a lot more about what kind of personalities pigs and chickens have. They've had a lot more than we might think. Our guest today is Karla Dumas, and she is the Vice President of the Farm Animal Protection Campaign at the Humane Society of the United States. Welcome to the show, Karla.
Thank you so much, Chad and Kelly. I am so excited to talk with you today.
I'm excited too because, Chad, I don't think we often, have experts in one particular area or lane. But today we have an expert professionally on farm animals, but also personally. I think this might be a first for the pod, right?
Well, that's exciting.
Yes, you're special, Karla. Karla D,
thank you.
as I'm calling
Thank you.
Karla D. So, Karla, Kelly and I were talking briefly before we started on the mic here. I think our first question is, how do you have the time you've got a full-time job, farm animal protection campaign, and then, oh, by the way, I also run a farm animal sanctuary with a whole bunch of animals.
Yeah, I oftentimes wonder that myself. But yeah, it keeps me very busy, as I'm sure you both can imagine. And, it's something that I feel very passionately about. And while it can be very challenging, it's also rewarding personally. And I love starting my days outside and ending my days outside most of the time. So it's just all about the routines, which I know we'll kind of talk about later too.
Yeah, well, and I imagine that maybe the farm sanctuary is sometimes kind of a stress relief or a way to handle, inevitably you deal with cruelty in your professional work. So maybe that kind of mitigates the compassion fatigue. This balances that out potentially.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think, speaking to that, not only for myself, but some of the volunteer caretakers that also help me with the sanctuary and the volunteers and the visitors that come. I mean, I think my sanctuary is not unique in the fact that that is one of the benefits of sanctuaries across the world, and having that opportunity. It's like once you set foot in one, you can just kind of sense the peace, and, it just kind of overcomes your body in that way. So while it is a lot of work, it's also very peaceful.
That's great. So paint a picture for our listeners. And actually for me, I'm excited to learn about the sanctuary. So tell us about it, where it is, how long you've been doing it, what kind of animals, how many animals, tell listeners what you're doing when you're not working a full-time busy job on the clock.
Yeah, I am very happy to. So the sanctuary itself became officially a 501c3 in 2018. So right around 6 years it's been in existence, and I am based in Florida. So we are in a town called Lake City, and I usually round up saying we have right around 80 residents to be exact. And I counted just to make sure my numbers were accurate yesterday. There's 78 total animal residents on the property. So we have a mixture, as I'm sure you can imagine, of pigs, cows, horse, donkey, goats, sheep, turkeys, ducks, chickens, and then a handful of dogs and cats as well.
And no alligators? I mean, you're in Florida, Karla.
No alligators. Fingers crossed. I mean, alligators are very common everywhere in Florida, but no alligators.
That's good for the chickens, I imagine. That seems
yes.
Like they might enjoy a little too much. Yeah.
And since it's a sanctuary, these all come from different rescued situations, from bad situations. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, they have come from a variety of different situations. I'm sure we'll kind of chat about some of the individual residents and their background, but we have a handful that have actually come from the animal agriculture industry. We have had, owner surrenders. We've had strays. I've actually had to pick one pig up from a county jail here in Florida.
What?
We've had a couple pigs make their way from the Pacific Northwest to
Carla,
Florida.
I gotta stop you there. Back
Yeah.
up. You picked up did you say a pig?
Yes.
What was he in
Doing
for?
time, or what was going on parole, coming out? What's the situation?
It was the most bizarre situation. So he ended up, I think what happened was there were some individuals that were camping out on someone's private property, and they had this pig. And when they were removed from the property, they weren't really sure what to do with the pig. So he made his way back to the county jail based on the officers that reported to the situation. And then the vet that I work very closely with on the sanctuary received a call from the jail and just kind of inquiring about what they should do with the pig. And so she reached out to me, and we made our way to the jail and actually went and picked him up right there.
What did you name him? What's his name?
Well, his name is JP because before we named him, he was called Jail Pig. So it's
I love it. I love it. Oh,
now,
that's
what's
perfect.
interesting, Karla, though, when you said JP, for our regular listeners, you've probably heard us mention JP or John Goodwin. So I was a little worried that was either a shout out to or, in honor of our Puppy Mills director.
Right.
So when you're not working to protect farm animals or running a sanctuary, you're back and forth transporting pig felons or just pigs caught up in the system.
Yes. There's many different stories.
So what is you mentioned it's a 501c3, a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
So what is the name of the sanctuary?
So the sanctuary is called Yesahcan Sanctuary, which is kind of a unique name. I'm happy to kind of give you that background.
Yeah, please.
I started working with HSUS in 2015. Prior to that, I worked for many years within the school food service industry and simultaneously was involved in dog rescue. So doing a lot of fostering and volunteering my time there. And upon starting to work with HSUS, it really opened my eyes even more to the plight of farm animals and was really instrumental in my desire to expand my rescue efforts beyond dogs to farm animals in need. So as we just discussed, the sanctuary right now has a variety of rescued species, all of them very important and unique. But the individual that actually inspired Yesahcan Sanctuary is Lady Gaga. So I'm not talking about the actress or musician, but she was actually a Cornish cross hen, which is a common breed of chickens that are raised for meat, known as broilers in the industry. So just to give a little background on that, these chickens are bred to grow so rapidly that they're sent to slaughter and killed at only 45 days old. They're just babies. So typically they live in large windowless buildings, and they are genetically manipulated to grow so fast that their legs oftentimes can no longer hold their bodies and they can lay immobile. So imagine here a baby only a few months old already weighing over 100 pounds. That's kind of what happens with these chickens. So I say this because I knew the amount of time with Lady Gaga, this rescued chicken, would be limited, but still really wanted to give her the best life possible. So when I found out that there was a rescuer who actually rescued her in Orlando, I coordinated the pickup, drove to meet her. She settled in very well. A few short months later, I did rescue several more hens. And so at that point, I knew I needed to find more land. So fast forward another year, and I was driving east of my then home and found the perfect location. And in its former life, it was a small ranch called Yesahcan Ranch. And so I did feel it should be the name of the sanctuary. And I kind of looked at it as almost a play on words. Right. So yes, I can is sounding like yes, I can. Yeah. So it really became more of a motto for the sanctuary, both for the animals that are going to live there, but also for the human caretakers as well. So the idea is like in the very beginning, yes, I can start a sanctuary. Yes, I can help a creature in need. And from the animal's perspective, yes, they can live wild and free. So that was really kind of the play on there. And really quickly as well, since that time, Lady Gaga has passed, but her memory lives on. So I can happily share that she did get to spend several years at the new sanctuary location. And just to kind of think about, their natural behaviors, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about this, but she would graze, explore the grass and shrubs, enjoy dust baths in the sun. When she was a little older and the mobility issues became more apparent with her, she would actually stay really close to the house on the property where my office was. So she would lay next to the French doors that opened up to the office so I could watch her. But since Lady Gaga, all of the chickens, ducks, and turkeys that have been rescued with Yesahcan have been named after musicians in her memory.
Oh, I love it.
Are these musicians that are like your favorite musicians, or give us a couple more names?
So there's another one who is also the same breed as Lady Gaga was. Her name is Nikki, after Nicki Minaj. We have Leona, who's one of our ducks, after Leona Lewis. And her mate is Post. I call him Post after Post Malone. It's just really a variety. One of male turkeys, his name is Lenny, after Lenny Kravitz. And then the female turkeys, Liv and Lana. Also, one of our hens, Miranda, after Miranda Lambert. So it's just been like, some are very meaningful and some of my favorite musicians, but some it's just when I look, I feel inspired by the different names.
So, and with the musicians, so you're pulling from a lot of different genres there, which is interesting.
Yes.
So that is going to be an obvious springboard to and you've mentioned this somewhat, let's talk about the personalities, the different personalities about these chickens.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, kind of alluding to Nikki, I mean, she is one that very much goes and every morning, and I will say the residents themselves, like for me personally, it's very helpful to have routines just to kind of keep the flow of everything. It's also really helpful to spot if there is, a concern with one of the residents, because if there's something different with their routine, it's very easy to notice and recognize there. So it's helpful there. But the residents themselves get into really interesting routines based on their personalities or kind of, what they enjoy doing. So I alluded to Nikki. She comes every morning. I finish up the morning rounds and then clean the bowls so that they're to get ready for the next day. And she'll come and quote unquote help. But really, she's just trying to get some of the food scraps there. But, with the different personalities, for example, one of our hens that came from the egg-laying industry, her name is Red, and she actually came with the name based on the rescuer. So she's the one unique one that is not named after a musician. But even this morning, I was in cleaning the goat paddocks, and she wandered in there, and she's starting to just kind of scratch with the straw and peck around. She'll probably spend hours in there, and the goats have not necessarily interacted with chickens before. So they were very, very curious coming up to see what she's doing. And she's not bothered by it at all. She's just like, I'm doing what I'm doing. She's one that very much prefers spending time with the human caretakers versus some of her other chicken friends and residents as well. But, certainly in thinking about overall chicken personalities and thinking about this, the majority of them and the way that the structures are set up on the property is that they have area, it's wooded, kind of, there is a small pond, so it's kind of marshy, full of tree coverage and shrubs, plenty of area to walk around. They have free access to kind of checking things out, doing what they want. And this is also really based on ancestors of chickens, where they come from, jungle fowl. So they very much prefer the kind of wooded shrubbery area where they can naturally, they have the instinct to want to be under that coverage to hide from predators and things like that. So they very much engage in those natural behaviors.
That's great. So we've talked about the chickens a little bit. Let's switch off to the pigs. Can you tell us, so everything I read about pigs do have personalities and stuff. You've seen that on your farm, and you tell me if that's true or not.
Yes, very much true. So the sanctuary is home to 20 rescued pigs, and there are a variety of different breeds on the property as well. But each individual pig has a very unique personality, and it's very distinct. I think you all are familiar, and I think it's probably common knowledge with a lot of the education out there that pigs are highly intelligent. And so with that, they pick up on routines very quickly, and they also need a lot of enrichment as well in thinking about that. So the sanctuary is set up with their paddocks to have a lot of their, natural behaviors thought about when setting up their living quarters as well. So they spend, very much like I was talking about with the chickens, spend their days grazing in pastures. There's a lot of trees and wooded areas for them. As you know, Florida gets pretty hot during the summertime. So they actually spend most of their days in the shaded wood areas, kind of relaxing, laying down, resting in the dirt. They like to wade in water and mud baths. And then
sounds like a spa, Karla.
I know. I
may
know.
have some human residents too. A nice mud bath. Waiting.
Exactly. Well, in one story specific to so Felix is one of the 20 pigs that were rescued, and he was rescued just about 6 years ago. He actually came from a factory farm in North Carolina with 41 other piglets destined to be killed because they were either sick or not growing fast enough to move to the finishing facility. So the farmer relinquished these 42 piglets, and they received veterinary care, and then they all moved to sanctuaries across the country. So Felix and his I call him brother, but his transport mate, Asher, came to Yesahcan Sanctuary. So just the other weekend, I was putting up a new shade area as I'm preparing for a lot of the hot summer area. So making sure they have a lot of shade. And, certainly with Felix, what he was doing, it was in his area. It was a tarp. And just like a dog with a toy, he grabbed the tarp and started kind of swinging it around and moving his head around, jumping around, getting really excited. Now, Felix is, somewhere between 700 to 800 pounds. So a little different from a dog. When a 700-pound pig starts playing with something, you're just going to drop it and let him, do what he needs to do. So he has a lot of fun with that. And, another example, Milo, he actually came from another situation in the Midwest where he was being transported and the transport truck crashed. Yeah. And sadly, many of the piglets did die in the crash, but he was one of the ones that made it and was rescued, and he made his way here as a piglet. But, he loves to pull some of the taller grass that is in his area and add it to his bedding. So it's kind of like building a nest. So it's also, certainly enrichment, but it's a natural behavior of pigs to stay warm during the colder months as well. So it's just really fun to see each one. Gigi, who is another one of our pigs, she's actually one of the sweetest, most laid back pigs. She's never super excitable, yet she's ready for belly rubs and, the love there. And I have many of the pigs I'm out there doing different chores, and they'll just come over, just lay flat out on their side and wait patiently and until I'm done doing whatever I'm doing to come give them belly rubs.
Which I think would surprise a lot of listeners. I think such strong and different personalities, but also, when you were talking about, I think it was Felix plane, essentially. You know, I'm visualizing like one of those big ropes tug of war, or, you know, I mean, someday we may see the makers of Kong or other things are actually creating enrichment toys for pigs. I mean, I think a lot of listeners would be really interested in these different personalities that they display, and just the love and appreciation, even in the interaction with humans too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think we can see, I feel like we can see, you know, as pet owners, right? We have dogs or cats in our house, and we sort of know when they're ready to play, or they're in a mood, right? Or they're mad at us for some reason, or, you know, sulking. But you can see that those personalities come out, or those moods come out as well, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, certainly with the sanctuary itself, and kind of my thought process on this is I'm not forcing any kind of interaction with the residents. So if they want to spend time with me, if they'll kind of tell me what they want to do. There's, you know, just one example. There's one piglet, his name is Owen, and he was rescued, you know, days old, had to bottle feed him. He was also very, very sick the first 6 months of his life, wasn't sure he was going to survive. So he's been very much handled by humans since essentially he was born. And he is very accustomed to people, but I go into his area and he could care less about me. It's kind of like, whatever, I'm good. Just let me be, feed me. We're good to go. He's not interested in the belly rubs or anything like that. And then two of the most recent rescues, Memphis and Marlowe, they're two farm pigs, and they came just not even a year ago. And they came from really, really dire situations where they probably did not experience the most positive interactions with humans, yet they are the two of the most loving pigs. I mean, they have not met a stranger. You come here and they will invade your space. They want immediate belly rubs. You know, they're bigger now, but when they were smaller, they'd try and go underneath your legs and just stand there so you could pet them. So yes, it's very interesting. And I do also have, you know, for example, Dahlia, she lives in the area with Milo, who I discussed. She's another pig. And she's very vocal. She also, you know, the pigs are also very food motivated. There's usually not a snack that they do not enjoy. However, Dahlia is one that will not eat vegetables. So you give her some zucchini or cucumber, she will turn her nose up at it. Where some of the others are like, give me everything, but she's very picky with the food, with the snacks.
Do you have, Karla, so I am curious, do you capture any of this on video? I mean, is the sanctuary on social media? Because listeners may be interested to go see some of this remotely.
It is, yes.
How can folks watch these amazing animals?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. So yes, their Yesahcan Sanctuary is on most of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, done TikTok, I'm trying to learn that better and things like that. But yes, there are videos, there's pictures, so you can see more about each of the residents and kind of their day to day. Also do have a website that shares more of the individual stories of each rescued resident.
Yeah, and if you could share that website, that'd be great.
Yeah. It's Yesahcan, YESAHCAN sanctuary.org. And then social media, all of the handles are the same, Yesahcan Sanctuary.
That's great. Wonderful. One of the things you told me, Karla, about from your house, you can actually look out the window and sort of see the pasture, which is just an amazing way to live, right? You just look out there and see farm animals running around. But I think this sort of speaks to you getting to know them so well that you can identify them. You can, as they're running by, you know, however far away, I'm sure hundreds of yards away, you're like, that's whoever, and that's whoever.
And you know that pig that did some time is running away. You got to keep a close eye on that one.
Jail pig, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I can right now. I can tell you I'm looking at. So I have a rescued donkey who is close to, guesstimating close to 30 years old. but he is right here in my view. And then Nikki, who I talked about, Lenny the turkey, Simon the rooster. So yes, I can see a lot of them right now as we're talking.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love it. And it's Simon the rooster. Is that after Simon Le Bon of Duran Duran?
Yes.
Is it really?
Is it really?
Carla, are you a Duranie?
You know what? I love all, as we've found out, I love all genres of music. So I am a fan of music.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's such, I mean, it really is, Carla. And you can tell for, I think, even for people that are listening to the podcast audio, it comes through, but certainly those watching on the screen, that you light up talking about these animals. And I, as much as I think, oh, I envy you being able to look out in the morning and, see them and to know them all. But I recognize it must be a tremendous, amount of work. And, yeah, I mean, it's truly inspiring. So
thank you. Yeah, I would say, the sanctuary certainly impacts my life in so many ways. And while it's so beautiful to see the animals that have come from really terrible, dire situations in many instances, just thriving and just being able to do whatever they want and just be. There are many sacrifices that come to operating a sanctuary, as I'm sure, we're even doing rescue work in general. Rain or shine, whether I'm feeling good or not, I have to be up and caring for them morning and evening. But it has taught me dedication, I would say resilience, strength, and certainly a new level of love and commitment for others. But even thinking about the work that we do at HSUS for farm animals, being able to care for the 78 animals every day, I know firsthand their natural behaviors, personalities, and how special they are. And this knowledge is so helpful when working with companies on animal welfare policies that relate to farm animals and working with the food service industry by reducing our reliance on animal products and focusing on more of the plant-based options. So it's also very helpful to the work that I'm doing at HSUS.
Absolutely. You're out there, talking to legislators or whatever it is, and you have actual examples of these pigs and chickens who were rescued from these situations you're trying to stop out there in the factory farms. That's pretty amazing.
Absolutely, yes.
So, Carla, because of you have such a unique background and knowledge of, farm animals and how they're treated and, in the food industry, but also the sanctuary. So we often hear about animals that are rescued, and you've talked about some of them from farms or that are headed to slaughter, or, we could be talking about hundreds, thousands, millions of animals. And it seems to me we couldn't just, where would they go if they're rescued? I mean, you have a sanctuary. We know probably most of our listeners have a sanctuary, some nearby, and they are so critical to this, the whole picture of how do we save these animals. But talk a little bit about kind of that connection, and can we rescue ourselves, from this? Or, I'd be interested in you speaking to that, because you really do have a great perspective on it.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I mean, this is such a big question. And, thinking about our work here at HSUS as it relates to farm animal protection, I think in many ways, and even for me, it can be difficult to wrap your mind around the number of land animals raised for food each year. Just in the US, we're talking over 10 billion animals. But when we break it down and look at the individuals behind these massive numbers, like we've done today, it can be immensely impactful. I'm someone that did not, like the majority of people probably listening and here in the US, did not grow up as a vegetarian or vegan, but very much cared about animals and not hurting them. And for me personally, it took becoming acquainted with a cow close to my home when I grew up as a child to make a connection and begin thinking about what I could do to alleviate some of the suffering of farm animals. So sanctuaries themselves offer people this unique opportunity to interact with farm animals, many times for the first time, and see firsthand some of the different personalities and things we talked about. But, certainly rescue and sanctuary work is incredibly important and has an important space here. But like you said, we can't rescue our way out of stopping the suffering of farm animals. So that's why the work we're doing every day here at HSUS for farm animals is so critical. And, tying it, whether it's this work or even with the sanctuary itself, education through visits and through people connecting with the sanctuary ambassadors, whether it's in person or we were talking about on social media, can impact the lives of farm animals exponentially. So what I like to do is tell people you don't have to rescue farm animals to make a difference. All you have to do is start incorporating more plant-based meals into your diet, and you're saving animals every day.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great point. I mean, you can lean into eating plant-based. You can work on policy that kind of stops this at the source. You can, visit a sanctuary, educate others about these animals, that they do have personalities. Check out your sanctuary. Obviously, donate and support to local sanctuaries. But I think that's an important point, that it really is a multi-pronged approach. And I love the fact that we got to meet with you today and hear from someone that's really checking off all the boxes. So, the whole be the change you wish to see, you have certainly embraced that in all aspects of your life. So we truly, truly appreciate you joining us today, Karla, telling us more about your, jail pigs, your chickens, Lady Gaga, Simon Le Bon, all of the animals and the incredible work that you're doing. And we thank our listeners for joining us, and we'll see you and share with you next time on Humane Voices, the official podcast of Humane Society of the United States.
Thanks so much,
so
Karla.
much.
And Karla, really quick before we leave, can you identify the rooster who we heard occasionally while you were talking? Can we give him a name?
That was Simon. Yes.
That's Simon.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Just Kelly, you should have been able to discern that voice.
I should have. I thought I heard a touch of a British accent, but I wasn't sure if it was John Taylor or Simon.
I was Simon, yeah.
I was a granny, so I love it. I saw them actually again last year, and yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, if you ever find yourself in Florida and want to come visit Simon the Rooster,
Simon Le Bon.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, Karla, we'll talk to you soon, and thanks everybody for listening. Talk soon.
Thanks, Karla. That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.